very interesting session about remote collaboration for the media industry, and we have Rebecca Wilson and Robert Marshall here to make this presentation.
Thank you. I'm Rebecca, the CEO of Source Elements and co-founder. Also, my co-founder here, Robert Marshall, who is head of innovation. And yeah, we're very excited to talk today. We're 18 years working in remote collaboration. And particularly in the last 3 years, we've seen huge advances in what is now possible. What boundaries can we push to work better remotely, knowing that now being remote isn't a luxury, but a necessity. And how can we make that less painful for us, less painful for our talent, less painful for our clients, and also more affordable? So we're just going to walk through some scenarios, and about halfway through, you're going to see a list of scenarios, and I think at that time it would be great just to open up then for a Q&A. So if at any time anyone has questions, we're really open to having a discussion here. So it would be also great to have this opportunity to discuss with you what you need and what opportunities you're seeing as well. So just a bit of an introduction. Source Elements started in 2003 on an August summer night when Robert and I were talking with the bear in Chicago, and he said, these ISDN lines are really expensive. I'm sure, what about this newfangled internet thing? Maybe we could send audio over that instead. And me being a naive programmer said, sure, I can figure that out. And here we are 18 years later. ISDN doesn't really exist anymore. We maybe can take a bit of credit for that. And we've been focused, I'm from New Zealand, Robert's from Chicago, our staff's in 15 countries, we're a remote first country company. Everything we do is focused on how do we feel more together, even though we're apart from each other. So this is who we are at our core, and so I hope you enjoy some of the things that we've got to talk about today. Where is that? There. So, so everyone here today, music, film, TV, radio, we're all telling stories. Our albums are telling stories. We're communicating. We're making an expression. And it's why we love this industry so much. Storytelling is such an important part of who we are as humans. And without our love of stories and that feeling of belonging it gives us when we know that someone else is listening to our music, listening to our stories, we wouldn't even try to overcome the challenges that we have to face. And since the 1800s with visual and audio technology, when they were first invented, we've been drawn to audio media technology for reasons probably most of us don't think about or understand, but we want to use this technology to tell our stories, to share our music, and to tell even more sophisticated stories and share even more sophisticated music together. And as you can see in this whole area in AES and NAB, look at what we do to tell stories and to share our expressions with each other. It's extraordinary, and I think it's really important that we acknowledge that. So increasingly, as technology gets more sophisticated, we need each other to tell those stories. We need each other to release our music, to make our productions, to do our theatre. We cannot do this alone. None of us are working alone anymore in this media industry. And so media production has a lot of moving parts, and these departments now also are increasingly separate. Los Angeles working with Vancouver, Vancouver working with London, edit houses in one place, directors flown somewhere else after making a movie, talent gone home with their kids after they've filmed something. Now we all need to work together and remotely. Skip this one. So aside from the other reasons that we can remember very recently, there are 4 core benefits to why we want to work remotely. So one is accessibility. Perhaps we can't leave the house for whatever reason. We have family needs. for whatever reason we need to stay where we are, or for whatever reason we need to go somewhere else. For perhaps we have an illness or a disability, it's much convenient to either stay where you are or need to go where we need to go. At some point, we can't make it for reasons, distance, geography, disability, costs, so remote collaboration is an incredible asset for our accessibility. And being together, any time that we spend time together in time, we're building relationships. And that means we're able to give better feedback to each other. We get closer as human beings. We're able to be more honest and transparent with each other. The work gets better. The quality of what we produce is better, the stronger our relationships. And some of you here I know, and I certainly know from spending time with you, how much easier it's gotten to communicate and work through any challenges we've needed to do, because we got to know each other for all that time we spent. Time that was either on the phone or remotely, sometimes here. Of course, we come to AES to be together for a little bit so we can bond and keep those relationships stronger. Being able to spend time with each other regardless of where we are is really important. So remote workflows foster stronger relationships by enabling more frequent real-time interactions between us. It's a secondary effect of building familiarity and therefore leading to higher trust, and we can overcome more challenges together. Environment is a huge topic at the moment. This statistic is really shocking to me and important. This is how much carbon dioxide is used. If you drive a car, your average combustion engine car, for 1 mile, you're going to use about just almost 4 ounces of carbon dioxide. That's 1 mile. But a video conference, 1 hour between 2 people, uses half an ounce. That's for 1 hour. Look at that difference. And I don't even go and look at what planes use. You know, many of us flew here today. I flew here today from Europe, but hopefully I've offset it enough by all the remote hours that I've done and helped people done. So the environment is, as we know, critical, and working remotely is proven to offset that. The other one is creativity. If you look at the kind of media we're producing now, more and more, there's things we're able to do, types of media we're able to create that wasn't possible, say, 10 or 20 years ago. And it's because we can work remotely. We've got virtual productions and you know, other kinds of remote productions that allow, if you watch, you know, TV series these days, the kind of work they're able to do thanks to these virtualizations is really extraordinary. And I see as remote tools get better and we're able to work with other cultures, with other people, with different ideas and different creative inputs, we're going to see more and more fusions of our, especially music. Music is, loves fusion. Music is one of those things, it's like, give me 2 different people of music and I will make a whole new one that you didn't imagine came before. And so remote collaboration is fantastic for that. But we know working remotely is hard. So any collaborative act can be made remote, but the question is, what are we losing in that process? So we've got network instability. Maybe we don't have the same equipment on both sides. Maybe we can't afford to have the same equipment. We've got time zones. How do we solve time zones? Latency, we've got compressed audio. The audio gets acoustically degraded. We have security concerns. Maybe you can't get up the network. And everyone has their own specific workflow. So we're all coming to this from really different areas of how we approach that workflow, and we're trying to connect with someone else's workflow that is different. And this makes it really hard and gives extra challenges. Fortunately, we can work remotely when we have the right tools. So this is what a lot of us are learning at the moment. What are those tools? What are those challenges that we're able to look at, and what do we need to adapt? What kind of tailoring do we need to give our tools so that we can integrate our existing work processes and maintain our flow? The last thing any of us want is have to learn a new DAW, have to learn a new NLE, right? So how can we integrate our tools into our existing flows? So just going to show some handover to Robert here, and we're going to talk about all of these things. we've sat down together the last couple of weeks, and we've thought, how can we sort of distill what it is that we need to do and think about when we're working remotely. So Robert's just going to go through each of these, and at this time, if anyone's got any questions, any input, we'd love to have a discussion on these topics. Oh, an NLE, non-linear editor for a film, Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere. So they need to work as well. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. So, the first thing here is guaranteed, remote recording. The internet is sort of designed as a fault-tolerant network compared to an old phone where if you had a problem, you lose your connection completely. And with the internet, it just sort of degrades and goes down and comes back up, and this can cause problems on the stream. So the first thing that's necessary is a system that can, by various means, but guarantee that what you're capturing is going to be the perfect quality audio and you don't have any compromises there. And there's all kinds of ways that, different platforms do this. There's certainly, just stream the audio as best you can and send me the files later. The easiest one is like, just Dropbox me the files or whatever. And those are, what we're at least striving to do at Source Elements is try to integrate these things so that you're not cobbling together different things to make it seamless. The other thing is making the stream itself more robust through, it might be bonding IP systems together, or it might be more intelligently tracking those files and then healing them without making people manually do the work of downloading them, overcutting them on the stream that might have had the dropout or whatever issue it was with the audio that was captured over a remote connection. But that's the first thing is you have to have a system that you can rely on, and you're not worrying about, is it going to work, is it not going to work, because you want to reduce the stress of these sessions. That lets the creativity flow when you're not worried about technical issues. So the second thing is synchronizing timelines. This is an old thing. It goes back to ISDN, which is obviously one of the first forms of remote collaboration, but some way of dealing with the latency. Just because we're working at a distance, time immediately becomes a problem, and how do you solve that? So the classic one is just to use some form of time code. It might be MIDI time code, it might be SMPTE time code. Those are the obvious ones. And you have to manage, all right, in what direction does one system need to sync with the other? Because two systems can't be in sync with each other simultaneously. It has to be understood that if one system's following the other, then the sync is flowing in this direction. And that might work for capturing a talent. I'm chasing the talent because I need to capture the talent in sync with my audio. But then when I play back, the talent might need to chase my system so that they hear the playback in sync with theirs. So managing the sync and how that's going to happen, again, if that's all built into the system, then the stress goes down because things are happening the way you need. You're hearing what you need to hear when you need to hear it in sync. But that's something that needs to be worked around in all these systems is the latency. We have our various ways of doing it, but like I said, time code is usually the most obvious one. The other one is kind of delaying things and synchronizing things in that method. Let's see, integrated solutions for your, right. So the next thing is there's a lot of consumer systems out there, and for the most part what we're seeing is people are trying to sort of duct tape and piggyback various systems together to make an overall workflow, and they don't always work so well together because they have conflicting goals. So a general meeting room, say Teams and Zoom, that's really, those systems are designed for communications, and so they're going to prioritize intelligibility, but they're not really prioritizing fidelity. And so then if you're using that system for communication, then what are you using for streaming? A higher quality audio and video. But the problem with that is now you've used two separate systems that don't know about each other. And so typically when you try to combine an outside communication system with a separate streaming system, now there's echo issues because they're unaware of each other. So when you're able to integrate all these things into the DAW, into your monitoring path, you can manage the echoes, you can manage the quality and the direction it needs to be, for example, separating the communications audio from the critical audio that's being recorded. So as all these systems get more sophisticated, building them into the platforms that we're working on is critical to making it seamless. And that comes up with, essentially like a near zero configuration, because usually one of the biggest problems with any of this remote workflow stuff is as engineers and technicians, we know what we need. We can set these things up, but often we're working with talent that are, they're just unaware. They just want to walk in the studio, step in front of a microphone and go. And they're very often being forced to have to set up these things and become engineers even though they don't want to. So the more the platforms can be set up so that there's a zero config for the talent, something where they can, as much as possible, just open something up and it's all set up for them, that is also going to reduce the friction. If the setup takes 45 minutes, that's going to have a much different session temperature than if the setup takes 3 minutes and you're off and running. So HD video streaming for ADR and approval. So this kind of gets back to also with the synchronization issues. But HD video streaming for review and approval, you have the video chat that you're seeing with everybody is it's kind of a warm blanket. Everyone likes to see each other. It makes you feel closer together. But again, the video stream has to be handled in a different way. Often, a lot of systems will prioritize hopefully the audio over the video, but then they get out of sync and they're like, oh, no big deal, it's out of sync. But if that's the review stream, you really need to make sure that the audio, the critical audio and video that's being reviewed is tightly integrated into the platform, and again, being streamed with what it requires for a meaningful session. If the sync is slipping, then the clients don't know, like, was that okay? Or was that a problem with the stream, or was that a problem with the take and the performance? And so if you're questioning those things, that's just going to slow a session down. We've often heard sessions where the engineer, the take happens and the clients say, was that in sync? We trust you as an engineer because we can't tell. And that puts a lot of pressure on the engineer because now they're making the final decision on something when really they don't want to be in that position. They're working with their clients and they want their clients to approve things and not, because then what if it isn't the best take, and then later the clients are like, well, you said it was okay and it wasn't, and now we got to redo it. And, so not fun. Let's see, other things just from a, she mentions here an educational context. So you're not only streaming the video, but you're also streaming your screen share. We went through this with COVID. We had many schools that were teaching audio to students. So the teachers were trying to stream their video stream and teach about compression. And then you're seeing a gain reduction meter. And this is something that you really got to feel to get a feel for how our compressor works. And if the video stream isn't in sync with the audio, it's hard to understand what's happening. So this is another example of how the systems need to be integrated better. Clients are, they just like they walk into your studio, they just want to walk into your virtual room, and they typically, there's a lot of cost to putting these things together. So certainly on the production side, the engineers, they're going to bear most of the cost. The other one is the talent systems. Those still have more sophistication. But on the client side, if the clients had to pay to join these sessions besides your normal session fee, they wouldn't want to do it. So just free entry, easy access for clients to make that the easiest, because it's one thing that it's understandable that the talent might have some onboarding and some technical needs, but again, if it takes the clients 20 minutes to log into a system, if it takes 25 minutes, they're just going to say, send me a file and I'll approve it later, and that breaks the whole workflow and the real-time interaction. Secure connections. A lot of these things are very expensive productions, and so all these platforms need to be secure, and the security can often run contrary to getting things done. So being able to build a system that has security at the level that's necessary, but not at the price of making everything a complete pain in the butt, that's a critical part of making the whole system come together and feel transparent. And then, of course, technical support when hopefully nothing goes wrong, but if there is anything, it's important to be able to get up and running. You know, you can imagine if you've got a very expensive talent on the line and there's something wrong, you want to be able to get in touch and find someone who's got answers to be able to help if there is something that goes wrong. Does anybody have any questions or like specific questions? Nope.
So Tom says he's been with us for a long time and that we've been there when he's needed us. What's expensive? Elmo. Elmo is expensive. So he's seen firsthand. Yeah.
If you have to rebook a talent,
Yeah, if you rebook a talent, that's thousands of dollars. So, I think there's three kinds of people, and I'm sure among you, there's maybe one of each at least. People who, we've met walking around AES before, and they're like, "What do you do?" And we say remote collaboration. They're like, "Never, I will not. It is not for me. I will not do it. If I cannot be with the talent in the same room, if they're not in my booth in my studio, I'm not doing this." And maybe we can't get through to you, that's fine. And then there's the second person who's like, no matter what, I'm going to make it work. And of course, this is, many of our early users, like, Tom, been with us in the beginning, you're like, Elmo can't be here today, but we've got to record him, right? You haven't got any choice. So many, many years we've spent trying to make that as easy as possible for Elmo to make people, many, many kids happy. And there's the second kind, the third kind, which I think is probably the majority of people here, like, I don't know. So it feels too hard. I'll do it when I have to. I'm not really comfortable doing it. And this is a real new challenge, I think, for us and other people, manufacturers and developers working in remote collaboration. They're like, what is that tipping point when you don't notice a difference too much between when they're remote and not remote? And this is what we're really excited about.
I like the story of your niece with the iPad.
Oh, yeah.
It's a wonderful story.
So I have nephews. I live in Europe. I'm from New Zealand, and my nephews are in New Zealand in Christchurch. And when they were growing up, my brother would connect us on the iPad. And my nephews, being young, they don't know the difference if I'm there or not. All they know is that I'm with them. So we'd have breakfast together. I'm on the iPad. We're talking. And then they say, Rebecca, let's go play. They take the iPad. Here's the chickens. Oh, my God. Ha, you're under a blanket. You can't see us. This is the future. They adapt. All they care about is we're present together. So we're really focused on making sure that the line is good enough, the picture quality is good enough, the audio quality is good enough, and that it integrates with your tools. And I think with that, and we just double down and keep making it better and better and better, we'll get to that tipping point, and it's really exciting. So if any of you got any stories about the kind of remote collaboration working for you, we're really, really happy to hear those.